Welcome to Empowering Plans, a show dedicated to identifying waste and undue expense in the health benefits industry, discovering ways to maximize benefits while minimizing costs, and empowering employers, administrators, and consultants to emphasize once again the benefit in benefit plan. Today's episode is brought to you by the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, a free market-loving, price-displaying, state-of-the-art, AAA HC-accredited, doctor-owned, multi-specialty surgical facility in central Oklahoma. Now here are your hosts, the FIA Group's CEO, Adam Russo, and Senior Vice President and General Counsel, Ron Peck.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Empowering Plans with the FIA Group. I am your co-host, Adam Russo, co-founder and CEO of the FIA Group. With me, as always, is my great friend, a superb guy, just an overall good person, Ron Peck. Say hello, Ron.
Hello, Ron.
Ron, I feel better today. I mean, there's no Brady.
I feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders.
Right? I mean, I'm starting to think that we just gave him this co-host job way too easy. Does he really deserve to be sitting in that third chair?
Well, you know, we brought him in to talk a little bit about Trump care, and then I think he moved in and he squatted and he's never left.
I'm not even upset about that. I don't mind the squatter. How about a thank you? How about a note? Like, not one. He hasn't said one time, you know what? You and Ron, Adam, have been in this industry combined for over 35 years. I've been in it for 2. I can't believe that you allow me to sit in the same room as you two. He hasn't even said thank you once. I'm thinking we end this with him. I think we go back to the old music, get Chris Aguiar back on. We do the old intro. Folks out there, please tweet us. Reach us out on LinkedIn, whatever it is. Tell us how you feel. If you feel as strongly as I do that Brady's just not appreciative of what we've offered him.
I don't think anyone could truly appreciate what he's gotten, but he could at least make an effort at him. I agree with you on that.
I mean, every day I walk into work, Ron is on his hands and knees thanking me for the job and opportunity I gave him over 10 years ago. The least he could do is say thanks.
Actually, I'm looking for a contact lens, but I appreciate it anyway, Adam. Thanks.
That's a good one, Ron. I like that. So, folks, if you hear this laughing in the background, you're like, who is that? It doesn't sound like Ron. It doesn't sound like Adam. It's definitely not
track.
Pat.
We brought
not
a
Pat.
laugh track in, Adam.
Oh, that's what it is. That's what you call it, a laugh track, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we've upgraded our systems here. Our studio now is overlooking the ocean. It's an amazing view that we have every day. Isn't it great, Pat? He's nodding his head no. But okay. We have the pleasure of having a superb guest today. Someone who I could tell you, I never forget the first time I met him. I walked up to this gentleman and I said what a big fan I was of him. And he looks at me and says, wow, I was going to say the same thing about you. And you know, Ron, anyone says that about me, my head's already big.
Nice.
I mean,
He's in.
He's in. It's so easy. I'm like the easiest guy. He keeps laughing. So, Ron, you want to introduce our fine friend?
Sure. So we have the great honor of speaking to the one and only Dr. Keith Smith. Dr. Smith, of course, in our inner circle, known industry-wide for his work with the Free Market Medical Association and, more importantly, with his surgical center out in Oklahoma. The fact that he was, I was going to say one of the pioneers, but I'm tempted to say the pioneer when it comes to posting of transparent pricing online. Any patient, go on, you see what the procedure is, what the expected cost is. He puts it all out there for you. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. He doesn't care. He'll tell you what the cost is so you can plan ahead.
As an example, a hip replacement, you go on his website and you can see, and it's not called a hip replacement, I guess it's like there's a medical term to it, $15,499 all in.
Boom. Now you know what it is. It's amazing. And I think my initial introduction to him, I saw him on YouTube, their videos being interviewed, media, news media, and I'm not talking only in our industry. I'm talking national news media. But Dr. Smith, we know you from this perspective. Say hello to everybody and maybe let us know a little bit about what got you to this point.
Well, thank you. Hello, everyone, and I'm honored to be on the show. Thanks for having me. I think what led me to this place where I am now was my inability as an anesthesiologist in private practice in the first 7 years of my practice to continue to act as an accessory to the financial serial killers that we refer to as hospitals.
Financial serial killers. I'm happy I didn't
You like
say
that,
it.
Adam?
I'm happy I didn't say it.
You like that?
Good. I love it.
We're going to get it printed on T-shirts there, boss.
Well, I really did. I felt like an accessory to a crime, and there was only one way to escape and continue to practice anesthesia, and that was to own and control my own facility where I could be an advocate for patients both medically and financially and not participate in their bankruptcy. So back in 1997, Dr. Steve Lantier and I launched the surgery center with that mission in mind, that we would be honest and fair with patients that we were taking care of about what they were charged. And we were quoting prices over the phone for years when I made the move almost 10 years ago now. In fact, it was 10 years ago this month. And I decided to put all of our prices online, bundled, that includes surgeon, anesthesia facility, all the charges. And I did this because the industry was rigged against us. I mean, we knew we were cheaper. We knew we were better, and our waiting room was empty. And, that's not the market at work. If you're cheaper and better, you ought to have a line out the door. You ought to have to increase your prices to deal with the onslaught. And we were really struggling. So we put the prices online and embarrass the financial serial killers, and also bring attention to the public for what we believed a cruciate ligament reconstruction or gallbladder removal should cost. And we hoped that people that had the sticker shock, that were actually paying for their own health care, would be better able to find us. And that's what happened. I mean, the Canadian showed up first, which was instructive for everybody who thinks that's a good idea. And then the self-funded industry, and we met wonderful people in the industry, and fortunate to have you guys at the FIA group ringing our bell and tooting our horn all the time. And we just see more and more self-funded companies that are tired of being ripped off by the VUCAs, and understanding this discount scam game, and they continue to patronize us and save just untold sums. It's been a great experience.
So, Dr. Smith, who is your typical client? I mean, when the patient comes in, are they local? Are they from all over the country? Are they typically in self-funded plans with high deductibles? But if I put a gun to your head, and I'm not, but I'm just saying, you brought up the serial killers part. So what is a typical patient experience? Like, who is the patient, where are they coming from, and what type of health care do they have?
About 60% of the patients we see are beneficiaries of self-funded plans. I would say of that group, about half of them come from Oklahoma, and the rest come from all 50 states except Hawaii. Wisconsin and Alaska are two states that are overrepresented at our center, I think because the price of care there is so controlled by their cartel. And then the rest of the business are just individuals who, see our price online, and that price is either very agreeable to them because they're uninsured, or because they have one of these ridiculously high deductibles, and our bundled fee is less than their deductible.
So when you brought up earlier how your waiting room used to be empty, I'm assuming now it's not. I'm assuming now you're busy all the time, you got surgeons all the time. You brought up the fact that you posted your pricing online. Was that the secret of your success, or was that just a part of it? What do you think is the secret sauce here?
Well, I think posting our prices online was part of it. I think the other part was just the intense scrutiny that players in the industry, the brokers and the big hospital systems and the PPOs have received because we put our prices online. So people have been lied to so much in this cesspool of an industry, and there's so many people that make a ton of money just ensuring that the system remains dysfunctional. So I think while putting our prices online brought us to the attention of individuals, I think there are self-funded companies who saw that as a real epiphany and realized for the first time they'd been ripped off, and maybe even patronize us, just out of revenge to the folks who've been lying to them all these years.
Sure. Now, a couple times now you've mentioned, Dr. Smith, the fact that the self-funded plans are the ones who noticed they were being ripped off, and so they realized there's this better opportunity. Why do you think it is that these self-funded plans seem to be the ones that are utilizing your services compared to other types of payers? I mean, you would think anybody who's at financial stake would be interested in finding the best deal.
Yeah, and that's a great question, because none of the carriers want anything to do with us. I mean, they never have, and they still don't. So there's a...
That's surprising. You have the quality and you have a low cost. It's their money.
Yes.
They don't want to work with you.
Carriers they want to work with us. And I think there are two things that work there. One is the big hospital systems have a lot of leverage. And when they tell Aetna that, yeah, we're going to contract with you, but by the way, we don't want you contracting with X, Y, and Z. I think that is and I actually know not about Aetna, but I know that firsthand about some payers. So that's part of it. The other part is that our transparent pricing denies the carriers the opportunity to skim the transaction. So if a carrier is paying, is the administrator for a self-funded plan, they can't debit one amount from the self-funded plan and pay me a lower amount and skim the difference and not disclose it, because the employer knows exactly what I charge and they would be able to pick up very quickly on, the discrepancy in the amount. So the whole repricing scam, the skimming the transactions is precluded with our pricing. So the carriers don't want anything to do with us, not only where they're assuming risk, but they don't want anything to do with us as the ASO of self-funded plans, without exception.
Sure. And, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I definitely have noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, the use of what we'll call proprietary discount network-based camouflaging of pricing, in essence, would allow somebody to do what you described, whereas when you're posting it online, there is no more camouflage. Do you think that you've had an impact on the business, on the industry at large then? I mean, the fact is, yeah, the carrier doesn't want to use you for the reasons you've mentioned, but certainly now if I'm the end user, I'm the one with the policy, I'm the one who's paying the premium, and I see that you're posting the prices online, am I starting to ask questions? Do the carriers have to start reacting to their consumers, reacting to you?
Even in more detail, have the hospitals around you changed in your area? What's happened there?
Yeah, and for the first part, I rely on folks like you and my friends like Jay Kempton that have the TPA. I rely on you guys to tell me the extent to which the industry has been changed by what we've done. More specifically, I think about Gandhi's quote, first they ignore us, then they laugh at us, then they fight us, then we win. And that's exactly what has happened. We put our prices online and nobody paid any attention. And then they started laughing at us, at these local hospitals, what lunatics we were. And then, then they got mad and tried to fight us in a way. And now you look at the largest hospital system in Oklahoma is Integris, and they have a website with pricing. Now, there are a lot of asterisks, so it's not inclusive, but they have felt enough pressure that they at least felt like they needed to wear that badge, even though they're not transparent. And then we look at hospital systems like University of California, Los Angeles, and you should pull up their transparent price website at some point. It looks exactly like my website with the avatar and the circles that, produce drop-down pricing, because it is my website. They were the only ones that copied it and didn't ask first, so I don't mind calling them out. But there are facilities all over the United States that are copying us, partly because they were tired of seeing business walk out the door and head to Oklahoma.
Have you seen prices drop?
In the local hospitals, those catering to the individual payers, yes. I mean, to the individual patient who's paying cash, there's definitely been a deflationary trend here in Oklahoma City, no doubt.
Dr. Smith, I know that you work with and have relationships with surgeons and other providers who work at these hospitals and facilities. Have you felt that other providers are starting to reach out to you, not as a facility, as a hospital, copying you or pushing back or anything like that, but rather individual providers of medical care, the surgeons themselves, who frankly, based on my own experience, don't really have much hand in the matter of pricing and payment, and rather they're just in the actual delivery of care, reaching out to you and asking, hey, how can I get involved? How can I mimic what you're doing? Because they want to do what you've done.
Yes. In fact, it follows Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's grief pattern, where somebody, from whom we've taken a patient, initially it's in shock and disbelief, and then they, get very sad, and then they get very angry about it, and then they enter that acceptance phase, and that's where they typically email me and say, okay, enough. Will you tell me how you did this? And that is a huge component of why the Free Market Medical Association was formed, so that there would be, really a formal way to help a facility or a physician enter this space where, they're not just medically, but financially advocating for patients. So I spent a lot of time helping other facilities wrap their minds around what we've done and help them do it.
So I don't know if you know this, but we here at the FIA Group, we have our own direct primary care doctor that we utilize, and we pay a flat monthly fee on a PEPM basis. What we like about it is not only the flat rate, but when Dr. Tremblay refers us for an MRI or for a CAT scan or for some other specialist, he's able to do that outside of any system. So he's actually able to refer us to high quality yet low priced type care. But I can tell you that here in our state, unlike in Oklahoma, there's a lot of pushback in regards to being able to create a facility. The fact that Dr. Jeff Gold, who was actually one of our first guests on this podcast a couple weeks back, he actually spent tens of thousands of dollars on legal fees just to put his prices on a website and have a PEPM flat rate monthly fee because he was getting pushback from the insurance commissioner that he was actually in the business of insurance. How much pushback is there across the country to other doctors, other facilities, other surgeons from doing exactly what you've been able to do successfully in Oklahoma City?
Well, there's a lot of pushback, and it's variable, from place to place. Somebody on Twitter the other day sent out a question, who is the Darth Vader of healthcare? And my answer was Uncle Sam. So the people need to understand as bankrupting and evil as the hospitals and the PPO carriers are, that Uncle Sam is always driving the getaway car. All of these scams have been enabled by the government. And it's not just the federal government. There's state and local government that have certificate of need laws and insurance commissioners who many times are funded, and their departments are funded by fees paid from the insurers. So of course they're going to try to regulate Dr. Gold, who I'm a big fan of his, by the way, but they're going to try to regulate him as insurance in an attempt to hamstring his attempt. So there's a lot of pushback, but as the public becomes increasingly aware that they've been ripped off, this pushback is starting to break down. And what I'm seeing is not new bricks and mortar facilities coming about, but seeing existing facilities, particularly those that are owned and operated by physicians, come into this space and decide they're going to be fair with their patients and not bankrupt them.
So we've heard a lot about the providers and the issues and sort of the pushback that you've received, but I think you're in a pretty good spot now. You're serving a lot of self-funded plans and plan members. For our audience, which is mostly comprised of broker advisors, TPAs, stop-loss carriers, employers, and the like, how can they take advantage of either you or other providers like you that you support? What's the next step? Because they know this is a great option, but I don't know how to do this. How do I take advantage of this opportunity?
Well, we actually have a lot of capacity. We made the mistake of dealing with a self-funded plan that was very large, and then they played the bully card on us and left. So we actually have a lot of they played the bully card, and I fired them. So we have a lot of capacity, but what I would recommend an employer or a consultant do is look at our website and either consider a travel option for the patients and the employees to get them here, or look at the Free Market Medical Association website and look at those facilities to see if it's not at Surgery Center of Oklahoma, is there a facility more, closer that can provide what we need? And then the other thing I'd recommend people do is to print out our pricing and take that to a local hospital financial serial killer and ask them to step up and match this, or we're going to start shipping everybody to Oklahoma City, for their surgical needs. And that's been astonishingly effective. And that's where I would start. And obviously, if a broker or consultant wants to talk to me directly, they can email me and I'll send them a list of pricing and CPT codes and a sample contract and a Word document that they can change, and we're up and rolling in less than 24 hours.
So I have one last question for you, Dr. Smith, and thank you so much. I think we've all learned a lot, and our audience will get a lot out of this today. But we don't have Brady here today. Brady is typically our, what's the word I'm looking for, Ron? He's the predictor. He's always wrong, usually wrong. But he's the guy that we usually end these podcasts asking Brady to tell us what's going to happen next.
Right. I call him Nostradamus.
Right. Nostradamus. Perfect. So if we come to you, Dr. Smith, and I say to you, Doc, where's the future lie? Where do you see the future? Not 20 years from now, but 5 to 10 years out. How is our healthcare system going to change, if at all? What do you see? And trust me, 5 years from now, we will replay this podcast on the 5-year anniversary show. What's going to happen?
I'm actually very optimistic. Murray Rothbard, the great Austrian economist, referred to the market as both powerful and beautiful. It's a wonderful thing to have mutually beneficial exchange, but it's also very powerful. And these ideas are out. The horse is out of the barn. People know that surgery and medicine can be affordable. It does not have to be as expensive as it is. And I just don't think there's any putting this genie back in the bottle. I also think that it's a mistake to look for a solution from government. The only thing government can do is get out of the way and undo everything they have done. What we're seeing is a real grassroots, ground up kind of movement where individual physicians and the DPC doctors is a great example of a very disruptive force. And eventually, they're looking for surgery centers and hospitals that won't rip their patients off. So the intense buyer demand, I think, is going to increase. And as the buyers, particularly the self-funded buyers, demand that they be provided services for a known price, then I think all of the providers will fall in. But really, it's a demand problem, not a supply problem at this point. And I know everybody in the Free Market Medical Association and in this movement appreciates all that you guys do to make sure that the demand remains and increases.
Well, we appreciate that, and that's supposed to be the last question, but I'm sorry. Did you just quote an Austrian economist? Oh, what was that? Who is this guy? Ron, what did you hear?
I don't know, but,
what did he just say?
Yeah.
Will you just say that again? What's his name?
His name is Murray Rothbard, one of the most brilliant economists ever lived. He and another fellow named Ludwig von Mises. And those ideas are, for me.
Why do you know these guys? Why do you know these names? Ron, even our producer shaking his head. Like, who are these people?
I think he hit the Google machine before the podcast.
Are you online right now Googling, how do I make myself sound really smart? Like the famous Ecuadorian economist.
No, I'm a student of these guys. It's great stuff.
This is absolutely great. But Dr. Smith, thank you so much. For those of you listening in, Dr. Keith Smith is at the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. A great person, a great man, a great friend, a true friend of the show and of the FIA Group. We thank you so much for joining us here today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Speaking of power and beauty, Dr. Smith, I want to thank you and Adam for allowing me to be here. You can figure out which of you is power and which of you is beauty.
Well, I think I'm a little bit of both. So
that's hilarious.
On behalf of Ron Peck and myself, thank you all for empowering your plans with the FIA Group. Until next time, have a great day.